Hey everybody, welcome back to the GRETT show. I hope everyone's having a good day today. We got some Barcelona news today, and to be honest, it's kind of frustrating. There's some more uncertain news circulating Barcelona about a couple players, very important players nonetheless, that I want to bring to your attention. And it's just one of the things that frustrates me about this is, first of all, there's already players that aren't registered, and Barcelona's first match is against Valencia this weekend. So that's something they should be working on first and foremost. But now we're still hearing transfer rumors with the season starting in a couple days with two important players, I might add. So I want to give my 2 cents on this topic. I want to hear what you guys have to say as well. I think most of you probably will agree, but I just want to hear what you guys have to say. And then there's a couple other aspects that we got to touch on with Barcelona's one last chance to fill their left winger void. Who is this going to be? We're going to discuss this, plus two more other players within the Barcelona squad, some interesting transfer news about them. So we're going to touch on that afterwards. But before we jump in, guys, if you guys haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy this content. It helps me, and I really appreciate you and all your support. Now let's jump in and discuss what's going on with Barcelona yet again. So it looks like Barcelona is potentially open to selling two key players in their squad. And again, I always like to play devil's advocate. I understand both sides of the story, but at the end of the day, these two specific players, I'm completely against, and I'm going to give my reasons why. So the first player is Raphinha. And I understand with Raphinha, out of Vitor Roque, Raphinha, Ferran Torres, Ansu Fati, he's the one player you probably get the most money from. But at the end of the day, he's also the most productive player out of all four of those players. And he's proven in big matches last season that he can be really, really impactful to Barcelona. And to be honest, I've grown kind of fond of Raphinha. He's incredibly fast. He can stretch the defense. And I think Flick will use him in the right ways. And he will become even more impactful and dangerous playing on that left wing. And you know what? Even if Dani Olmo's playing on the left wing, even if Barcelona hypothetically signed a left winger, regardless of who it is, I still would want to keep Raphinha because you got to keep Lamine Yamal fresh. You got to keep his legs fresh. He's coming off a crazy long season. At 17, he needs rest. He needs a break. We got to make sure we treat that kid with so much tender love and care. Get him rest, work with the trainers, let Raphinha play because he's the only other player that I trust that can take Lamine Yamal's spot and still be very effective as a right winger. Now with Raphinha, I would actually like to see Barcelona try something like this, kind of how Real Madrid did last season, where they used Bellingham as that like deep false nine / cam type position. Hypothetically, they could run Raphinha on the left, or if they got a left winger, they could do that. And then they can put Lamine Yamal on the right, and then they have like Dani Olmo play that really deep false nine or cam role, and then you can play Pedri, Gundogan, and then another holding midfielder. I think that could actually work out really well because we have to do something about this Lewandowski situation too, because I just don't trust him. I think he's just going downhill quicker and quicker. And it just came out, there was a report that Barcelona players apparently complained to Xavi last season that they weren't able to fully press as a team with him on the pitch because he just doesn't give that effort. So I would actually like to see Barcelona, as a side note, maybe try that because that could work well. So I personally, unless you get Nico Williams or you get somebody else, even then I would try and keep him. But I think Raphinha is a top priority, to be honest. And if anything, you get rid of Ferran Torres. Cut your losses. Somebody around the world will take him for 30, 40 million. Somebody will take him. He's young enough. He's a good player. It's not like he's bad. So he could play for a lot of teams. And Barca, I think, could get 30, 40 million somewhere. I would push that a million times before selling Raphinha. So let me know what you guys think about that. Now, the next player is Ilkay Gundogan. I've read a lot of comments about Gundogan recently, and some people aren't entirely happy with how he performed last year. Some are. I am, and I'm not. Again, I think he obviously was our most, in terms of consistency, one of our most consistent players. He was like the only player that didn't get injured, and he's one of the oldest players in the squad. So we can rely on him to stay healthy, knock on wood. We can rely on him to stay healthy. And, you know, last season I think was unfortunate because where he was coming from, the system in Man City, he was able to play more of an attacking role. And, you know, they had Rodri to play as a CDM, you know, and he didn't really have to play that role. Whereas at Barcelona last season, we found him really dropping deep a lot and playing as one of those two CDMs or those holding midfielders. And he's just not impactful in that way. It's not his fault. That's not where he's meant to be on the pitch. We saw how great he was for Germany this Euro when he was able to play in more of that attacking role. I would like to see more of that, and I think Gundogan under Flick is going to be successful. And I also want to say, because of the injury issues that we see frequently from Pedri, he will get injured. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Gavi, we have to make sure We ease him into this season. We have to make sure if he plays, it's 10 minutes. Then he's out. It's 15 minutes, then he's out. We can't afford him, the one player who gives it his all the time on the pitch, to get hurt. Frenkie de Jong tends to get injured. Not as frequent as Pedri, but he's shown he can get injured. And we need to make sure we have Ilkay Gundogan, because, I mean, we very well could be in a position where we could see 2 or 3 players in the midfield injured, and it's not unlikely. We need to make sure he's there, and that's a huge reason why. You're not going to get a lot of money for him, and to be honest, he'll probably leave after the season anyways. And I think he's going to be beneficial under Flick, and you need him for that added support and extra depth in the midfield. I think you have to. So, again, let me know what you guys think about Gundogan and then Raphinha. Would you keep them, or are you open to selling them? Let me know down below. There's 3 other quick pieces I want to touch on. Now, first is it looks like Barcelona has reignited their interest in Luis Diaz. I'm for it, to be honest. If they can afford it, I'm 100% on board. I don't need to explain to you guys. We all know how incredible he is. He looked insane in the Euro. He's so quick, so fast, one of the best dribblers in the world, and he's so dangerous. And I think him and Dani Olmo and Balde combining on that left side, whoever it might be, I think that's a great combination, and it's a great alternative to Nico Williams. I still want Nico, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I don't have high hopes. I also don't think Luis Diaz is going to happen either, because I think the release clause at a minimum, Liverpool is going to set at least at a minimum 70 million euros, because they know what he's worth. Now, he's like 27, I think, so it's not too old. I think if Barcelona could get him for 50, I would go for it 100%, but anything above that, I think it's a little taxing. But nonetheless, there's also been reports about City going for Luis Diaz, but I think Fabrizio confirmed that was false. Also, I don't think that makes any sense, because they already have Bernardo Silva, Foden, Jack Grealish, and Jeremy Doku. I don't think there's a reason why they would need him. So I'm on board with this, because it doesn't look like we're going to get Nico Williams, but I just don't think it happens. So are you guys on board with going after Luis Diaz? Let me know your thoughts about that too. Now, last but not least, Frenkie de Jong and Vitor Roque. It looks like Frenkie de Jong, despite the interest from other clubs, specifically Man United, he wants to stay and is going to stay at Barcelona. And yes, he's getting paid a lot of money, and a lot of this is back pay. So again, I don't know how much he'd be getting paid if we subtracted all that money he was supposed to get paid a couple years back. I still think it's a little too much. My brief thoughts on Frenkie is you have to keep him until you find a real mature CDM, because yes, you have Casado, you have Marc Bernal, but at the end of the day, they're extremely young and inexperienced, and Frenkie de Jong is the only player in the Barcelona squad right now that can act as a defensive midfielder and is comfortable enough in that role. Yes, we can play Christensen, but I don't think he's built to play that position consistently. If someone's injured and he needs to step in, great. If Frenkie de Jong needs a pivot partner in that role, pair him with Christensen, but I think you got to keep Frenkie de Jong until you find a true replacement for him, because if they didn't have Frenkie de Jong this season, I think they would be screwed. That midfield would be in a very, very tough situation, because Pedri with the injuries, Gavi's not going to be able to play for a while consistently at a very, very high level. I don't think we can play Christensen comfortably in that position every single match. And then obviously Gundogan, I don't like him in that position. I like him more kind of how Pedri is better when they're kind of more free roaming attacking type of midfielders. So I think you have to keep Frenkie de Jong. I think it's a must, and the salary is ridiculous. I understand selling him, but I think Barcelona would still have to pay him that back pay even if they sold him. So I just think it's a really unfortunate situation that they're in. And the best hope for Barcelona is that Marc Casado or Marc Bernal can show up huge and just be an instant game changer, an X factor, and step up for Barcelona and be one of those important players. They have to make sure they have someone that can help Frenkie de Jong as a defensive-minded player and lock down that center defensive midfield role. So that's my thoughts on Frenkie de Jong. Now, last is Vitor Roque. Look, I feel for him. He's in a shitty spot. I think it's a shame on Barcelona for going out to get him this soon, where we really didn't know what to expect from him. He was coming off an injury. He came over mid-season. He didn't play last season really at all. And now he's getting overshadowed by Pau Victor. It's a bad situation for him, and I feel for him. Barca just rejected an offer. I think it was 25 million euros from Everton, and it looks like Barca wants around 35 million, which you're going to lose money on him. How embarrassing is that? You go out to get this supposed wonder kid, you spend this money, you get him mid-season earlier than you thought you were going to get him, you don't use him, and then you maybe overpay for him and then sell him for a loss. I mean, it's crazy. For as great as a club as Barcelona can be and the potential that we have, these little things that pop up, you know, it sucks that they happen to us because I feel like stuff like this kind of makes other people laugh at us and it ruins our reputation a little bit. And it's really frustrating. And I feel for Vitor Roque and I want it to work out here. I just don't see how it does because I think Pau Victor is going to be Lewandowski's replacement over Vitor Roque. They just need the experience in game time. So I'm at the point, I have no idea what Barcelona does with Vitor Roque. I like him and I just wish him the best regardless of what it is. And I just hope whatever happens, Barcelona doesn't make themselves look worse than they already do in this situation. I want to hear your thoughts about this down below. If you guys haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate the continued support. I'm excited to see Barcelona in their first match. Let me know your predictions for the match against Valencia this weekend, and I'll see you guys back here next time on the GRETT Show.